So it's been a bit, hasn't it? No one cares that it's been a bit. My last video got 100 views, which is more than I usually get, but still nobody cares. Let's be real. But I've been gone a while. I'm gonna start this back up again, hopefully. That's the fifth time I've said that. So let's talk about the game against Newcastle.
What we do here is go back.
So let's talk about this Newcastle game, shall we? Because it was a doozy. It was a doozy, to say the least. So let's look at the statistics, shall we? City had 7 shots, 4 on target, 58% possession. Newcastle had 9 shots, 3 on target, and 42% possession. So that really reflects how even the game was, I think. What it doesn't reflect is the controversy, but we'll get to that later. I'm gonna do a whole segment on that. I've got at least 3 minutes on it. I think, it was a hard-fought win. You talk about hard-fought wins. This is a prime example of one, I believe, because Newcastle attacked. St. James's Park is definitely not a very easy stadium to go to win a game, let alone a semi-final of a cup competition. That, if we learn anything from last season, is that we know that Newcastle like to take the Carabao Cup seriously. Let's talk about the goals. First goal comes from Jeremy Doku getting past his man, fizzing it into the middle, and Semenyo gets on the end of it. It's not a very complicated goal, but it's a classic. It's a vintage Doku goal. Dox gets past his man. I think, was it Lewis Hall, or who was it actually? I remember it being Lewis Hall, I think. Oh no, it was Miley. It was Miley. Miley. Okay. But Lewis Miley was playing makeshift right back. And I think he did well. Obviously, he did well because, if he hadn't done well, they would have conceded a lot more. Second goal. Here we go with the controversy. Semenyo kicks in a corner. He's unmarked. Well, he's marked kind of by Juan Rissa. Kicks it in and goal. Except it isn't, because, VAR likes to have their say, don't they? I've got a couple points to make about this disallowed goal. Now, I understand that the goalkeeper is always the last man. If there's a player behind him and the player is influencing the play, then it's an offside. I don't disagree with that, right? I don't disagree with that at all. The issue with it is Haaland isn't interfering with the play by any means. So I can't show it because I'm gonna get copyrighted probably. I can show an image of it probably, but Pope jumps away from the ball and he isn't even looking at Haaland and Malik Jow, who are having a bit of a tussle right next to him. He doesn't even look. He jumps the wrong way and the ball goes in. So how is Haaland influencing the play? I want you, the viewer, to click off this video, go to the highlights of the Newcastle City game, and look at the VAR check right now. Look at when they do it, look at the football, and look at Semenyo's boot. Now tell me, are they checking it when Semenyo's kicking the ball, or are they not? Let me give you a second. They're not. That's the answer is that they're not. The ball has not landed in his feet. And I understand there's probably, not that many frames. It's not that many frames until the ball does hit his foot, but that's not the rule. The rule isn't measure offside from when the ball is very close to hitting his foot. No, the rule is from when it hits his foot. Let's not, fabricate now, because that's when things start to get messy. I'm gonna do some player ratings. I think most people played well this game, but there was a couple people could have done better in my opinion. So I give Trafford a 7. He's done well over the season. It's been harsh for him because he got dropped. He was expecting to start for Man City, and all of a sudden he's playing against his only games are against Cardiff and Swansea, and he's not happy about that. But he's taken his chances well this season, I reckon, and he's if Donnarumma ever leaves in like 2 years, then if Trafford can compose himself and like bring himself to stay at the club for that long, he'll be a very solid keeper. I gave Matheus Nunes 6.7. That is just because he didn't do very well. He didn't do an incredible amount, but the whole back line played well because we had the clean sheet. You can't really ask for more. I think he handled the game well, but he wasn't as dynamic going forward as maybe he has been in the past. I gave both Kusanov and Max Alleyne a 7.5. Now I will say it's a little more impressive that Max Alleyne did as well as he did because he's just come from Watford. It's almost as if Man City, if they went out and got Jay Stansfield, and then Jay Stansfield slotted right into Man City and he started playing like a regular in the Premier League even though he's never been. It's sort of like that. Max Alleyne looks very comfortable. He's been not incredible. Well, he has been incredible. Yeah, let's say that. Kusanov did well as well. I think they both did equally well. And Nathan Ake, I'm giving him a 6.8. It's you can notice that he's a makeshift left back. You notice that. You notice he's usually a center back, but he held down defensively, so you can't complain, right? I gave Nico O'Reilly a 6.9 because he was back in midfield, and he sort of looked a little more uncomfortable than he usually plays when he's at left back. Maybe he's we haven't seen him much in midfield as a professional footballer. We saw him in the academy play midfield, but that's a whole different ballgame, literally. But he still played well. He got a yellow. He riled up the crowd. He O'Reiled up the crowd, and he just did well. And I gave Silva 6.6, which is harsh, but honestly, I don't think he did much. He had a lot of fights with Joe Ellington, though. Jeez Louise, Joe Ellington was calling him short. He was doing all types of stuff to him, and Silva was just kicking him. And that's vintage, mate. That's vintage. I gave Semenyo a 9.2. He should have had 2 goals. You already know my opinion on that. He was great, and he will continue to do great. I gave Foden a 7 because I couldn't really notice him during the game, but that just means he was doing his job properly, which is good. He was, dribbling the ball out of tight spaces, doing the things he needs to do, and even though he didn't score, or I think he didn't assist, he didn't. There you go. Did pretty well. I gave Ducks an 8.4. As I said, vintage Doku. Great assist. Caused the defense trouble all game. And that's what happened, really. I gave Haaland a 6.5 because it's been happening a lot that he doesn't score, and what usually happens when he doesn't score is he kind of fades into the crowd and nothing really happens with him. But that's just what happens when you're playing as a lone striker, really. You either do great or you do nothing. But I do feel like he could be doing a little more. Reinders, I gave him a 6.5 because I don't really remember him. I don't really remember seeing him do anything. I gave Shirky a 7.8 because he came on and he scored. I gave Ryan Aitnouri a 7.8 because he came on and assisted. And finally, I gave Rico Lewis 6.7 because I feel like he's becoming more and more dubious in defense. He's becoming less and less reliable, but I feel like that's not so much his fault because maybe he's not built for it. Who am I to judge, right? Because I'm not a professional footballer. I didn't come through the EDS as the best player in the EDS for 2 years minimum. But it's my opinion as someone from the outside looking in that maybe he's just better cut out for midfield. Maybe he's better as someone, like Foden, who's good at dribbling out of tight spaces rather than having to soak up pressure on defense, because we saw it against Madrid last season especially, that he's not really built for that kind of stuff because he gets pushed off the ball a lot easier than Matheus Nunes. And I'm not even trying to be harsh against him because he was, I remember when he first came into the team, that treble-winning season, he was like he was great. Scored against Sevilla. He did well, but even then you could start to see there was holes in his game. So I think Lewis, I'm not giving up on Lewis, never giving up on Lewis, but I think maybe he's just better cut out to play in midfield. And that was it. Thank you very much for watching. And if I remember to make a video, I'll see you after the Manchester Derby at Old Trafford.